from here on the east coast of Arkansas as Shop Dog Sam. Where will we start today? A correction. The cylinder sleeve that I actually installed into the engine is the same size. It just, I was looking at the different digits when I misspoke. I didn't misspoke, I just was talking about the different cylinder. The one that's in the engine measured out the same, 3 inches 625 thousandths on the original bore size, and the wire part where the ring travels is 3 inches 638 thousandths. Due to calculations, that means that that cylinder sleeve has a ring wire of oversized ring wire of 13 thousandths, and the one here on the workbench has the wire of 20 thousandths. But 13 thousandths is the one in the engine, and here, and that's not very much. We're going to be really good to go there. Let's see, well, let's go right here first thing. Just kind of get it as it's laid out here. You can see I've been working on several different parts of the engine, front, back, top to bottom. We've been getting it done. Just a few things for the new owners of these McCormick Deering Type M engines. This one right here is a 1.5 horsepower in particular, and what I've done, I've been cleaning up parts, and I did go ahead and get this pin out. If you remember, we talked about it in one of the episode back, maybe as a teardown, and I needed to get it out there, and the reasoning being it was bent, and also this wire, that gap in there, if you can see that gap right there, that's not supposed to be there. That's supposed to be like that right there, real slick and smooth. It's just a mild steel. It's nothing. It's not exotic, and really it's not a good idea to replace this with no tool steel or nothing like that, because it does need to be in a maybe emergency situation of some type. If something locked up, then this does need to be where that it can bend and get out of the way, and it won't break nothing else. But the reason that this had to be replaced is that much wire right there. And just kind of looking at it sideways here and telling you about it, it's worn more than 80% gone. And then now this collar was not on the engine. This is just the show and tell part, but it's the same. It's what you will find, and the hole originally was perfectly round and smaller than this, and you can see that one right there is kind of keyhole shaped. And what happens? The reason that the engine runs, and that's another kind of misconception. With a throttle governor, with a governor system in general, the engine should pulsate. The RPMs actually should have the opportunity to slow down and speed up in a perfect running engine. And this is the reason right here is you'll start the engine up and it will run exactly the same speed, hit exactly the same time, and it's not right. This engine right here would have never governed. It couldn't govern itself, simply because this gap was worn, and this collar is also worn to correspond with it. And when this is in the engine, that comes around, and that little gap right there catches in that war place right there, and then this collar cannot move in and out, and that's the function of it. This should be able to, as the fly balls, as the engine speeds up or slows down. We'll talk about that later. But to get us right here to this point is this is the reason the engine runs exactly the same speed all the time. It's not good. If you replace that with a new one, then when this goes in here, that can slide, just being steadfast in the housing, this collar can slide in and out as needed. That's the way that works. Governors. It's called a governor. Keeps the engine at a safe speed. And one time, if you remember, I needed to get this out. It was right in there, and it was bent and worn, so it needed to be replaced. And I did have some mild steel that I laid in earlier. And I did cut it. I got that one out, cut that one, and while I was at it, I made an extra one. I do have one laid aside. And if you remember how I get them out, and this right here is the very reason. And it's really quick, and it does not require a second thought. You can see that I put a vice grip on here quite tight in order to twist this pin and pull it out at the same time. Well, it was in there so tight that it would not, the vice grips gave way. We just wouldn't get it out. To save it and not just not break it off, and even if they are broke off, the first inclination is to center punch it, drill it, get an easy out, or thread it and pull it out. To get it done and get on with the project is just come to the back side, and then there's another video backwards, several videos back, where I explain this in depth. You just measure, get a center line on this and a center line on that, drill a hole in the back, put the punch in there, and it punches right out. Very easy to do. Very short time it's out of there. And then now what I'll do is I'll put this in the press over there, and I'll press that back in there to a depth of 1.5 inches. That sticks out 1.5 inches. So I'll press that in there, and we'll be good to go. It cleaned up quite well. I'll prime this part right here in the center. Enough of that one. The cap's cleaned up really, really good, and I'll set them aside to be primed and get to the carburetor mixer. Call it what you like. And I have been trying. Let's clean up as we go. The rear cover, if you remember, had a hole rusted in it, and I did find a good one that I had laid up for just such occasion, and it's bent. It was tightened up too tight, and it's pulled in there. And this ring right here around the outside and that ring in there are supposed to be on the same plane. Okay, in order to set that right is I found a short bar the same diameter as that impression is in there, and then just hit it with a couple of licks with the hammer there. And now if you put a straight edge across through there, you can see that it's back into line. And then when I put this onto the mixer, then I will tighten it up appropriately. Another thing too, this did not have a gasket here. No gasket went here, but when you now there it is. When you put this, and there's the rear cover with the hole in it. This is a replacement. Same patina. It may have a, well, it's got no paint on it. Same patina. And it will go right there. But if you just put it right on there, this mixer will suck air right there on the back of that. And anyhow this gets air in there, then it will not, it won't make this compensating valve compensate. And I did find, lucky that I had one in a parts bin over there, a new spring to go there. And that goes like such, and it compensates. And if you're pulling air in right here, then it won't make that. And that thing should pop. It shouldn't just. It should pop. And the gasoline version had 2 holes. The kerosene version had more holes. So we've got this all. And I did find enough. I will assemble this with gasket sealer later, but to get it all aside. And if you remember, the front choke plate was missing, as was the bolt, screw, and spring. And I happen to have one of them on the in the parts bin over there. That's the same patina. It's not been cleaned yet. So we looked out there. I've run a tap through the filler hole there, cleaned up the gasket material, all of that. And you remember we made these, some extra ones earlier that go the interior. Let's set this aside and get on with the mixer body.